Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk about something that's going to be of interest to people that like to keep up with true crime cases. It's also going to be of interest to people who have been following the Summer Wells case for the past few years. And just in case you don't know, Summer Wells was a little girl that went missing over 4 years ago. She was 5 years old, and she's still missing with no clues, no proof, we don't know anything. The case is supposedly still open, but most people think it's a cold case. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about that today, but I'm also going to talk mostly about a polygraph machine, what some people like to call a lie detector. Now, the reason I got to thinking about this was recently I saw a video on YouTube where a certain creator is raising money to give a couple of people a polygraph. And her intentions are good. I don't fault her for that. And the people that are contributing money to pay for these polygraphs, I don't fault them at all. They have good intentions. But what I want to talk about is this really something we can depend on? I'm going to talk a little bit about the polygraph, when it was invented and why and how it's been misused over the years. And also, I'm going to tell you what the inventor of the polygraph said about it many years later. Let me just set this up a little bit. Now, I've done some research on ChatGPT, and I imagine most of you know what that is. It's artificial intelligence. I asked the question, what happens when you take a polygraph? And here's what it said. When you take a polygraph test, the machine doesn't detect lies directly. It records physiological responses that tend to change under stress or deception. The process typically involves, number one, pre-test interview. This is when the examiner explains the procedure, asks background questions, and establishes baseline physiological readings. Number two, there are sensors attached. These devices measure respiration, cardiovascular activity, electrodermal activity, which is sweat gland activity. Number three, questioning. You're asked a series of questions. First of all, there are irrelevant questions like, is today Monday? Then there are control questions that are designed to provoke mild stress. For example, have you ever lied to avoid trouble? And then there are relevant questions that are directly about the issue under investigation. Number four, recording responses. The polygraph records changes in your physiology across these question types. The examiner looks for stronger reactions to relevant questions compared to controls. And number five, analysis. Results are interpreted by the examiner. This is subjective. It's not a purely mechanical readout. Here's important facts. It also says, accuracy is controversial. Estimates vary widely between 50 and 90%. 50 and 90%. False positives and false negatives are common. Anxiety medical conditions, or even just nerves can trigger deceptive results. Now, there are countermeasures that some people take. For example, controlled breathing, biting your tongue, mental arithmetic. These can sometimes manipulate results. In most legal systems, polygraph results are not admissible in court due to unreliability. Think about that. Now, here's a question I also asked. Did John Larson, the inventor of the polygraph, ever regret inventing the machine? The reason I asked this question because I've seen videos on YouTube that suggest that he did regret actually inventing this machine. So here's what ChatGPT said in response to that question. Yes, John Augustus Larson, the Berkeley police officer and physiologist who built the first practical polygraph in 1921, came to regret it. Late in life, he stated that the machine had been widely misused and overhyped. He originally intended it as a scientific tool to support police work with objectivity, but it quickly became a tool for coercion, intimidation, and unreliable lie detection. Larson called it a Frankenstein's monster. I'm going to read that again. Larson called it a Frankenstein's monster and openly criticized its application outside of controlled research settings. In short, In short, he didn't regret inventing it as a scientific experiment, but he regretted how law enforcement and others abused it as a truth machine when it was never that reliable. Now there you go. There's some facts about the polygraph, which is commonly referred to as a lie detector. Now, how is this relevant to the video I'll talk to you about where the YouTuber is raising money to give a couple of people that some people say are suspects in the Somerville's investigation? How is this relevant to that? Okay, well, first of all, some people assume that if someone agrees to the polygraph, it means they have nothing to hide. That's not necessarily the case. They may just have a lot of confidence in their ability to remain calm while they are lying. That's possible. Now, also, some people believe that if a person refuses to take a polygraph test, that means that they have something to hide. Not necessarily. It may just mean that they know that the test is unreliable. And then we get this false positives and false negatives that was mentioned in what I just read. You know, sometimes these results, you know, they may indicate a person is lying when they're not, and vice versa. It may indicate they're telling the truth when they're lying. Some people are very good at lying, and there's not going to be any changes in their heart rate or their blood pressure or their breathing when they lie. Some people, like pathological liars, you know, are very good at it. So what does it prove? Nothing. Nothing. The machine does exactly what it was designed to do. It measures physiological changes as a result of the answers to the questions being asked by the examiner. Now, you may ask, well, does a person have different changes in their physiology if they lie? Well, yeah, sometimes yes. But a lot of the results depend on, number one, the person that psychologically prepares a person before they take a test. For example, if a detective is interrogating you and telling you that, well, you can just take a lie detector test and we'll see. Well, if this detective convinces you that if you lie, it's going to show up and you're going to be caught. If you believe that, then you're going to have a lot of stress if you lie, okay? So he's setting you up for that. So whether or not he or she convinces you with that can determine, the results on the test, because it's going to determine whether or not you're stressed when you tell a lie, okay? Now, another thing that's subjective is the person who gives the test. They are going to examine and interpret the results of this test. Now, they may be good at this and they may not be. There are good examiners and there are those that aren't so good, okay? So the person that's examining and interpreting these results may or may not be good at it. So the bottom line is, there's nothing wrong with taking polygraphs. It can be useful. It can be useful. But the bad thing is, it's misused. And a lot of people assume it's a lie detector, and it is not. It was not meant to do that. It does not do that. It measures the result, the physical, it measures the physiological changes in a person's breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, and sweat as they respond to the questions asked by the examiner, okay? It measures the results on the graph accurately, and it's good for that. It's great for that, but it's not a lie detector, okay? Now, getting back to these two people that are going to be supposedly taking this test in response to the Summer Wells case. If you've been following this case, I know you're familiar with the names Fred Hill and Andy, Andy Bernard. Andy Bernard, okay. Now, some people say that they have something to do with Summer Wells being missing. I'm not saying they do, not saying they don't. Now, I've seen a lot of videos over the years about Fred Hill, and, he's been known to tell some lies, okay? That's just a matter of record. Does that mean he's going to lie on a polygraph? No, not necessarily, but past behavior is a good indicator of what might, and you know how that goes. Anyway, if he is willing to take the test, and he says that he is, doesn't mean he's going to, but so far he says he is, does that mean he has nothing to hide? Or does that mean he's got a lot of confidence in his ability to not react when he lies? I don't know. And the same can be said about Andy, So the fact that they're agreeing to take the test, first of all, it remains to be seen if they do. And even if they do, we don't know for sure if the results of the test are really proving anything, okay? And certain things can cause people to have a bad result as far as the test goes. By bad result, I mean it could say that they're lying and they're not really. Medication can have an effect on that. trauma in somebody's life can affect that. Different things can affect the results. Okay? So, is it scientific? No. It is not scientifically able to detect lies. It does very well at recording physiological changes in a person's heart rate, breathing, and so on and so forth. That's what it was designed to do. It does that well. But while Mr. Larson he didn't regret inventing the machine as it is supposed to be used. He regretted the fact that it had been misused. Now, we see results of this TV shows like Dr. Phil, the Maury Povich show, Steve Wilkos show. People love these shows, They decide, who's the baby daddy or who lied to whom and all this supposedly. But, we're conditioned to believe that these polygraph machines are, in fact, lie detectors. They are not. So, it's okay to be entertained by this. It's okay if you want to put your trust in this. Well, I don't know. If you want to, you can. You can also believe that if the voodoo priestess puts a curse on you, you're going to have bad luck. If you want to believe that, then who knows, it might affect things. But anyway, the point is, don't trust polygraph machines to reveal whether or not somebody is lying. They do not do that accurately, okay? Remember, results 50 to 90% accurate. Now, I can pretty much guess and do that good. Can you? Anyway, that's just what's on my mind, and you can take that for what it's worth. I'm going to also, I think I'll include a few links in the description and talk about polygraph test. So you can watch some videos and read some things. So, yeah, I'll do that. So, anyway, I hope you got something out of this. If you did, you did. If you didn't, you didn't. Okay? So, anyway, have a great day. Hope you got something out of this. And, yeah, that's it.